Hey fam, MDB here, and you know what? I've been seeing some really disturbing things in the headlines recently. Things such as California plans to ban food dyes in school lunches, or for instance, yellow number 5 has links to an increase in ADHD in children, or that green number 5 turns you into the Incredible Hulk. Okay, that last one is fake, but you catch my drift. Apparently, the whole world is drowning in toxic synthetic dyes and colors, and there's no way to save us. Now, is this true, or is the tie-dye wool being pulled over our eyes? We're going to explore this today on the next $1 Million Batchmaker. Stay tuned. Hey guys, and thanks again for joining me today. We have a huge task ahead. Today we're going to be evaluating the vast array of synthetic and natural colors and dyes available in the food and cosmetic space, and we're going to be asking ourselves, are any of them safe? Should we be banning the industrial use of colors everywhere? But before we answer that, let's give ourselves some historical perspective. Now, humans have been using color additives for literally thousands of years for all kinds of different things. With the first official archaeological evidence of artificial coloring occurring around 300 BC in ancient Egypt, where the ancient Egyptians were using natural ingredients like turmeric, saffron, paprika, and lead oxide, yes, that is natural, to color things like hair dyes and wines. But synthetic colorants, the ones we often see on the back of our product labels, the ones that were clearly synthesized in a lab, those colorants can be dated back to around 1856, where one William Henry Perkins synthesized the first synthetic colorant, mauve, which is a kind of purple, which he synthesized using coal tar. And of course, using similar techniques in the field of chemistry, Perkins and entrepreneurs like him made a ton of artificial colors out of coal tar and made a lot of money in the process. And by the 1900s, synthetic colorants were being used in everything from baked bread to jewelry. But then the question has to be asked, why did the use of synthetic colorants just explode so quickly, so suddenly? Well, here's a few things to consider. Point one, synthetic colorants allow you to get the same consistent color every time for your product. And I already know what some of you out there are already going to say.
But hey, MDB, consistent color is not the most important thing for me, dude. I like my coffee yellow and black and everything in between.
Well, hey, that may be true for you, dude, but here are the facts. Color consistency builds brand loyalty. It allows you to command a higher price point for your product, and it also garners repeat purchases. It's pretty hard to beat. Point number two, the old-timey natural colorants weren't always all they were cracked up to be. Most importantly, those natural colorants were often contaminated, sometimes heavily, with heavy metals such as aluminum, cadmium, and lead. Yes, lead. Remember that lead oxide I mentioned in the beginning? Add to that red lead and vermilion, two other toxic natural colorants that were often used in cheese and other confectionaries. But of course, these days we have testing tools and protocols to weed out contaminants, right? Do you really want to take that chance? Really, do you? And point number three, quite often using synthetic colorants is just simply more convenient and economical. I often mention this when I'm talking about fine fragrances. Getting natural ingredients is hard work. Think about it. You're harvesting something that nature provided that thing is in sufficient quantity and it hasn't been ravaged by, natural disaster or disease. And on top of that, natural ingredients always include some degree of variation, and you can only compensate that variation, often by using synthetics. Now, before we dive deeply into the safety stuff, let's cover the broad range, the broad list of, personal care, cosmetic, and food colorants that you'll encounter on the marketplace. And also keep in mind, this is by no means an exhaustive, complete list. As you'll shortly see, science has created a lot of color. First on the list, we have iron oxide or iron oxides. This is a naturally occurring inorganic compound which is also found naturally in your body. Rust is the colloquial name for this, so we should all be familiar with rust. Iron oxides tend to be used in situations where you need a thick block color. Applications where you need a good degree of opaqueness, which is why they're generally also used when you need a matte color. Iron oxides are sometimes used in candies, ice creams, and cheeses. Probably the biggest usage, consumer usage at least though, is in the color cosmetic space. Those foundations that you ladies love, it's almost guaranteed that they contain a good amount of iron oxide. In fact, I'll bet money on it. Iron oxide itself is natural, yes, but I believe in nature it only comes in so many colors. I believe in black and reddish brown. But of course, good old science has stepped in and allowed iron oxide to come in a multitude of colors. That could include green, red, blue, aquamarine, you name it, it is yours. And to achieve a white or off-white block color, titanium and zinc oxide are used, which are both fairly natural but heavily processed still. And in the similar vein, we have chromium oxides, which again is a inorganic compound which occurs naturally. And in its natural state, it is a shade of green. But with a pair of lead balls and a little bit of science, you can manipulate the chemistry to get some ultramarine blues, some violets, and some pinks out of this category. Next, we turn our attention to the organic colorants. And here you may hear some terms that are familiar to you. This is where we get those famous FD&C and DNC colorants from. And yes, there are many of them. Just keep in mind that FD&C means that the color is approved for use in food, drugs, and cosmetics, while a DNC colorant is not approved for use in food. These colors are mostly used for tinting and shading. They're almost never used for, a block color. So you will almost definitely see these used for, clear foods and drinks like, say, Jell-O or Mountain Dew. And by the way, Gen Z, yellow number 5 will not shrink your dick, no matter what TikTok says. Next, we have the category of the caramels and caramel colors. And these colors are results, basically the byproducts of processing, sugar, molasses, and burnt sugar. And I know some of you are shouting from the rooftops, but MDB, this category must be natural. I mean, it comes from sugar, burnt sugar, molasses. But hold up. As I explained in an earlier video about caramel colors, this is not always the case. So sorry to burst your bubble. And lastly, I want to put this in a special category. The fact that there is a whole world, actually a whole universe of colors that are simply dedicated to brightening the effect of other colors, actually providing a degree of pearlescence. Most infamously on this list is mica, a fairly cheap mineral that can be as natural or synthetic as you want, really. And bismuth oxychloride, which can give you a kind of silvery pearlescent effect. Think disco ball, but on a much, much smaller scale. And that is my short list of colorants, but trust me, there are so many more. And as far as the safety of these chemicals go, I've personally used, dyes like yellow number 5 before, and I've had no issues with it. But then again, who knows what the future will hold? It's just safe to say that
God, what a day. Next time I'm flying coach. Hey, buddy. Bet you never expected to see me, huh?
No, I didn't. Who are you supposed to be exactly?
Well, I'm...
Wait. I've seen enough sci-fi to know what's going on. So I just said, who knows what the future will hold, and just like magic, a future version of me appears right in front of me to warn me of something, probably related to synthetic colors, right?
Oh, I see. You think you're real smart, huh, don't you, Sonny? A real brainiac. Well, you're wrong, buddy. I'm the future version of you, but from a different timeline. That's right, the multiverse is real.
Okay.
But listen for a sec, young blood, because I do have a warning. I may look like an old man, but I'm actually 32.
Oh,
Yeah, I got your attention now, huh? Now listen, I'm gonna tell you what happened to me, but you gotta promise, no judgment, alright?
alright.
So it was the summer of 2012, and well, I was at a P. Diddy party.
Oh, God. Just, no.
And as the night went on, I found myself rubbing my entire body with yellow number 5 and baby oil for hours and hours.
Dude, come on.
Hours and hours and hours.
You're disgusting.
It was glorious.
Hey, you know what? I appreciate the warning. I kind of doubt I'll have the same issues as you, but I really got to wrap up this episode, so if you wouldn't mind getting out of...
All right, Mr. Goody Two Shoes. You got it all figured out, don't you?
Just trying to do a show, man.
No matter what happens, you'll be all right, huh? Yeah.
Hey, I'll do my best, whatever happens.
Well, what happens is that a chemical spill causes our to fall off in 2 years.
Well, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to... Wait. What'd you say?
See you later, young blood.
Wait, what was that last thing you said? Just wait.
Bye now.
Now, let's talk about the safety concerns. As I mentioned earlier, during the turn of the last century, a lot of people basically turned away from natural colorants, basically to escape the adulterated, unregulated world of, natural colorants, escaping, the contamination from toxins and heavy metals that can more or less be easily screened out today. However, slowly and over time, the scientific community realized that, these synthetic colorants, they're not all so healthy either. Let's run down a few examples to see what I mean. Let's take, for example, the organic colorant category we mentioned earlier. That's the FD&C and DNC colorants like blue number 1, yellow number 5. Of this category, to date, the most dangerous is probably red number 3, erythrosine, in which there is some evidence that this can cause cancer in animals. And this is why bans on the use of red number 3 have been proliferating all over commerce recently. But the shit show doesn't really stop there. Oh no. Red number 40, yellow number 5, and yellow number 6 can potentially produce these 3 carcinogenic chemicals during their manufacture process. Now, I should legally say that the levels of these chemicals is usually very, very low, which is why these are considered GRAS by the FDA, generally regarded as safe. But considering that these 4 colors alone are put in thousands and thousands of foods that we consume every day, foods that children consume every day. These foods include candies, confectionaries, the colorful icings that we put on birthday cakes. Do we really want to take any chances here? Do we? There are even studies to suggest that children who are exposed to these food dyes on a regular basis may go on to develop mental issues like ADHD, inattentiveness, and general hyperactivity. A 2015 study indicated that yellow number 5 may actually be able to harm the DNA of white blood cells, allowing these white blood cells to mutate over time, thus increasing the risk of tumor growth. Doesn't sound fun. And that's not to mention the rare but very real cases of people who are genuinely allergic to some of these dyes. Hey, I know what you're thinking to yourself. You're thinking, hey, MDB, if I just stick to whole natural foods, then, I should be safe. I don't have to worry. You would think so. But just consider this. In many parts of the world, red dye is still added to salmon to give it that, nice pink color. And those green peas you get in a can, some companies add blue number 1 to them to maintain that green color. Do you ever use sauces to really spice up your food, give it a little kick? Well, guess what? A lot of times they have coloring to maintain that nice, consistent color that you all like. In the world of cosmetics and personal care, you're probably getting less or probably more infrequent exposures to these synthetic colorants, but the risk is not absolute zero. So, given this horrific situation, what can you do as a consumer to minimize your exposure to these, harmful colorants, both synthetic and natural? Well, for one, and this may only apply to me, but I do implicitly trust the ability of modern extractors and manufacturers of natural colorants to actually process their products correctly. What do I mean by this? Well, the natural, paprika, turmeric, saffron, natural colors that I mentioned earlier that have been used since time immemorial, I trust that modern day processors are able to get those raw materials without including, toxic heavy metals. I trust that there are processes, protocols, and techniques in place that will ensure that I generally won't get sick when I consume these natural colorants. Am I taking my health into my own hands sometimes? Probably, but I think the alternative is much, much worse. Next, I try to stay up to date and abreast of what the most stringent regulators out there are saying. Generally for me, this includes regulators from both the EU, the Japanese Ministry of Health, even some of the regulators in California, because they ban everything. And as a general personal preference, I don't quite mind when my salmon or my peas or my carrots are a little bit off color. Having grown up a little bit on a family farm, I know that nature is not perfect, and that is just fine by me. And if you're looking for a small but useful list of natural colorants on the market, I put a link in the description below. I hope you find it useful. One more thing before we go, guys. I am launching a new course about color cosmetics and coloring personal care products in early December. I hope you can check it out at alchemistexpress.com. The link is also in the description below. Sign up for a preview when you get the chance. Guys, it has been amazing informing you all today. If you have any questions, any comments, please feel free to leave them down below. I promise eventually I will get to everyone. Please feel free to like and ring that notification bell. It really helps out the channel. I'm serious, guys. It really does. But most important, on this channel, we want to remind you to keep formulating and keep having fun. Until next time, guys. See you later.